of their fingers. Yeah. A lot of people will do the preach as I say, but don't do as I do type of lifestyle. So, Eric, I see Eric's point, but I also see Marcella's point and Troy's point that, yeah, there are people that try to fake their zeal. And they want people to see what their zeal is.
Well, do you think zeal has a variance? I mean, it's either you got zealous or you're not.
That's whittling on God's end of the stick. God sees our efforts. God sees the purity of our hearts. And he sees our deeds. Again, deeds goes along with what Eric says. People know them by their fruits. It's not all words.
Then you might fool the public,
You can fool some of the people all the time, or all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Yeah. Work must be done pure. Work must also be done right in the spiritual world of zeal. Larry has a very good saying. Larry, would you like to share your saying with us concerning signs and how they can be done? Okay. He says you get the choice of how you want a sign to be made. You can make it right. You can make it fast, and you can make it cheap. Doing it right is not the same as doing it fast. Now, they can be done at the same time, but they're not the same. Doing it right is not the same as doing it cheap. Now, they can be done at the same time, but they are not the same qualities. In the world of zeal, we want to do it right. And if we have to sacrifice fast, you still want to do it right. If we have to sacrifice cheap, you still want to do it right. Doing it right. Yes, Larry.
I totally agree. Here's the question.
Okay.
Sometimes we can become so stifled by perfection that we don't get anything done.
Oh, yes, many of us have a perfectionist streak to us. Or some people call it OCD. We get obsessive compulsive disorder.
The way Eric looked, I think he was saying, I'm perfect, but I guess
With,
I was thinking, you talked about we want to be perfect, and so sometimes, I think sometimes we're afraid.
we can handcuff ourselves if we allow ourselves to wait to the perfect time.
We hinder our zeal in pursuit of perfection instead of just doing what we need to do.
There's a movie where one of the characters in the movie wants to be an artist, and they want to paint perfect pictures. And they spend 10 years, and they don't ever accomplish getting a perfect picture painted because they're just waiting for the right time. I saw a student in an auction school once, and he wanted to be an auctioneer. Went through the class, got to be licensed. After he had his license, people would, contact him. Well, that's just not the perfect auction for me. You need to call somebody else. You just go ahead, and that's okay. I just not for me. Another person would contact him. It's just not the right size and the right agreement on terms and anything. You just go ahead and get somebody else. And I'm going to wait for somebody else. You can handcuff yourself if you don't get that finishative or the way to finish itis a job. Your zeal doesn't do anything. Evan, you look like you've got something to say. You just have that look. Okay, Jamie.
Okay, so I'm not in this class very often, so I don't know if I'm on the right page or not. So, one thing about zeal to me, especially when we come together, and a lot of us smile when we're here. A lot of us are, how you doing?
Mhm.
Great. How you doing? Great. And knowing not everybody can be great all the time.
No.
Are we doing ourselves a disfavor, or there's a saying, not every smiling face is happy. Some smiles are just an effort to hide the pain. Are we doing ourselves a disservice, especially when we come to services and don't share with one another? Something, that one another class has stuck with me and probably will hopefully stick with me to the point that I do a lousy job of sharing what's truly on my mind, what's truly on my heart, even better, what's truly bothering me and affecting my daily walk. Because, years ago when Don Truex was here and he talked about, when everybody comes in the building and you say, how you doing? If anybody was to say anything other than good or great, we just look at them like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
You go back outside and check yourself. I don't know if that has anything to do with what we're kind of talking about here, but I feel like when you're putting on a fake smile sometimes, is that affecting your zeal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to be true to ourselves and true to others. And others need to know that, we're doing our best to be truthful with them and being truthful with ourselves. But, the scriptures are full of rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. And in our prayers, if we're not doing it, we need to say it even more. Help us to rejoice with those who are rejoicing with us today. Help us to be conscious enough to weep with those who are weeping today. And sometimes a congregation will suffer a group tragedy. You know that when you enter that assembly, that they are suffering a group tragedy. Troy had a cousin who died in a car wreck where 4 individuals from the same congregation died. And I heard that Sunday sermon that was given after that crash. That was touching. You could tell in the tone of the speakers that congregation was hurting. On the other hand, if a congregation is rejoicing, it's not ashamed to hide that. Let them rejoice. We need to be able to emote or show forth our joy. There are churches out there who have a practice of, 2 minutes before the service or 5 minutes before the service, everybody gets quiet. Everybody just quiets down. And I enjoy hearing people talk up to the minute when worship service starts. And I enjoy seeing people talk and smile and have a fun time after the last amens being said. Tells you this is a happy group. So, yes, there's going to be times when we hurt. We should not hide that. That's part of the zeal that we have for one another and the sharing that we have for one another. Eric.
Kind of along with Jamie's question and point, we've compared zeal to a fire in this study. And every once in a while, you start a fire, eventually that fire begins to dim until you restoke it and put, more wood on it. And I think sometimes we come in here and expect everyone to, have a fresh log on and everyone's, real happy. Sometimes our fires are dim. And I think sometimes, to Jamie's point, we're doing ourselves a disservice when we're not actually open and honest with one another and talking to one another and saying, here's really what's going on with me. Now, I think we get scared to talk about it because we don't want to be, here comes Jamie again. What's he going to complain about today? We don't want to be that guy. So we do fake it. And I'm not saying we need to be that person all the time. But it's okay to be the one who's in need sometimes and not be the one who's offering the help all the time. And I think that's a valid question, our point to make of our fires, they get brighter and dimmer week by week.
Every one of our fires get brighter or dimmer week by week. The problem that I see in Christendom, if we can use that word, is that some people show up here waiting for Brother Eric to be bringing in that firewood, and nobody else is bringing in their fuel. And Eric gets tired of carrying in the firewood every single Sunday or every single Wednesday. We all need to be carrying in a little bit of fuel so that we can get a good hot blaze going. No, it does not mean that. But yeah, we are a team. Yes, Larry.
When Jamie says that doesn't like to burden others, I understand what he's saying. Sometimes feel like, okay, my petty little aches and pains, I don't want to dampen somebody else's blaze. And I think there are times to do that and maybe times not.
My mother had a saying at one time that however she was feeling, if she came to church in the right attitude, she left here feeling better than the condition she was in when she walked in. Now, whether she was moping about something or joyous about something, if she came with the right attitude, she left feeling better. She had a lot of good sayings. One was, if you are questioning whether you are well enough, you might have a cough, might have a sore throat, might have a stopped up head or a migraine headache. If you had the opportunity to go to a basketball game, would you go to the basketball game? If you feel good enough to go to the basketball game, you're good enough to go to church. And if you don't feel like going to the basketball game, you're probably sick and you can stay home.
She's not the only mother with that attitude.
Yeah. Said for her, the yardstick at that moment in time was, how do you feel about going to a basketball game? If you felt good enough, you can go to church. We have an episode here of 4 tips. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't bottle up your emotions. That is what happens if you can't have a safety valve or a release from time to time. When I was a kid, I was known for having a volcanic, eruptive meltdown because I held things in until it was too late. And that volcano can go off. But if there's a way to have that safety valve, way to share in our homes, in church, that helps not balling up those emotions until there's nothing you can do. And that's why it's important for us to talk. Yes, Peg.
I consider that every smile I get from people is a gift.
Yes.
And I know Jamie's life is not perfect, and with all the stuff's going on, but every time he smiles, I know it's a true smile for me. It's a gift.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, diligence rejects laziness and aims for excellence. This is talking about an episode with Paul Harvey. He acknowledged that from time to time, a diligent person would surely stumble, but because of his commitment to excellence, he would rise above the competition. Diligent people are not perfect. They stumble and struggle like anyone else, but they press forward to create something excellent. The second tip is diligent works with the end in mind. Would somebody read for us Proverbs 21, verse 5? We have it quoted there about 2/3 of the way down on page 60.
Plans of the diligent lead surely to advantage, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty.
Okay, so diligent plans, and we think about and we plan about the future, think about the long term, it is an advantage. Even the animal kingdom demonstrates wisdom in preparing for their future. Would somebody read for us Proverbs 6, verses 6 through 8?
Go to the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways and be wise, which, having no chief, officer, or ruler, prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provision in the harvest.
Okay, so they plan for the future. I mean, Aesop's fables full of animal stories, which ones are foolish and which ones have a little bit of thought to them. And there's a lot of good wisdom there for us to apply. Tip number 3, diligence finds effective partners. You must remember that your zeal is for God's glory, not your own. Proverbs 15:22 says, without consultation, plans are frustrated, but with many counselors, they succeed. When you cooperate with godly counselors, you gain insight and encouragement that improves your efforts. When you accept the perspective of godly counselors, you'll achieve more lasting success and bring greater honor to God. Foolish counselors quickly tear down what it takes much longer to rebuild. As a public servant or a public courthouse official, I was known to say more than once, a bad office holder can tear down more in 4 years than what it took 40 years to build up. You've got to have good office holders. or that's what we pray for every election, is to have good office holders, because a bad one can tear it down in 4 years, what it took to build up. Question. And we're talking about wise counselors and foolish counselors. Can we misunderstand the scriptures reading the Bible by ourselves? Morris says it happens all the time. The Sadducees did. They thought they had the perfect trap for Jesus. In Matthew, the 22nd chapter, verses 23 and 24, the same day the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him, saying, Teacher, Moses said that if a man dies having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. And it goes on telling a hypothetical. After 7 married the woman, and last of all the woman died. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they all had her. Now, Sadducees knew what the Bible taught. Matter of fact, they put a lot of faith in the Torah. The Torah, the first 5 books, was where it was at for the Sadducees. And in the Torah, they saw that there was no bodily resurrection, and they saw that there was no detailed afterlife mentioned in the Torah. So, they go through life saying, this is what the Torah says. So, we're going to catch this Jesus on a question about marriage in the afterlife. What did Jesus tell them? He said, you are mistaken, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. So, we need to have godly counselors. We need to be able to broaden our understanding, not stay in your little isolated bubble of this is what it has to be this, and this is what the people are telling me that what this is, because that's what the Sadducees did. They just stayed in their own little bubble. And Jesus says, you don't understand the scriptures. God says to Moses, I am the God of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob. God's not the God of the dead, he's the God of the living. And the Pharisees saw that Jesus had answered the Sadducees pretty good. Larry. Yep, absolutely.
I mean, you would think that going through a Sadducee would have been a good person to go to.
That's right. That's right. But again, we had that passage that said, without consultation, plans are frustrated, but with many counselors, they succeed. Proverbs 15:22. We always need to be willing to take a step back, examine what everything's, how it all fits together, because the Bible doesn't contradict itself. It's all understandable, because God knows us. He wouldn't give us something that wasn't understandable. So we need to be able to get good counsel. And not just listen to the first guy that comes along. Yeah, I think there's another verse in Proverbs that says the first guy that goes to court, his case sounds good till the second guy comes along. So just don't listen to the first guy that comes along. We're almost out of time. The fourth tip, diligence does not waste opportunities. In John 9, verse 4, Jesus pointed out that there are many opportunities to serve God, but a time will come when people can no longer work. We must work the works of him who sent me as long as it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. And there is so much truth in that. Jesus said, while you can, you do. You've got to, reap the fields that are white with harvest. They're ready. There's a time for springtime. There's a time for harvest. There's a time for sunshine. There's a time for nighttime. There's a time to rest. But we have to be able to do our work when we see those opportunities. Because someday those opportunities might not be there. Inviting people to services. Talking to them about spiritual matters. Evan was able to invite a waitress to services here a few years ago, and he related that story. Says, it's simple to talk to people about, how's things are going with you. Do you live around here? How many kids you got? Hey, this might be if you're not if you want someplace that's trying to do what's right by what God says, follow the Bible, what it says, come visit us. We should use that zeal for what God wants us to do. Thank you so much for your comments. I think next Sunday, is a review by Brother Eric. Thank you very much.